Another story is important. I'm not sure of the precise date, but it is 2 years on now since Russia invaded Ukraine. And what I think, if you remember at the time from the coverage, was meant to be a lightning strike at Kiev. No, they were going to take over the airport. They were going to hit key locations with Russian shock troops and basically take over the country. It didn't quite work out that way for them. The president of Ukraine, a plucky little ex-satirical TV star, managed to formulate, and the Ukrainian people formulated, a stoic and fast-moving response. And many countries around the world came to the aid of Ukraine against Soviet aggression. And 2 years on, well, if you believe what you read in the papers, and as we found this morning, that's a questionable pastime. The war is at a stalemate. Tens of thousands of people have died, many of them civilians. And we have Russia continuing to pour masses of men and material into the conflict. And we have Ukraine with its hand out, getting aid from the international community, from Europe, from the United States, and from New Zealand, which recommitted, I think, more than $20 million of military aligned aid and other aid to Ukraine last week, including the training of Ukrainian troops by New Zealand personnel. And our support hasn't just been government to government. A number of New Zealanders, some of them whom I know, have been to Ukraine to offer humanitarian help. And I think one of the most prominent among them is Tenby Powell. And Tenby has run a couple of fundraising and specific efforts to get, for example, repurposed ambulances or reconditioned ambulances to the front line. His latest thing has been water heaters for the civilians of Ukraine. So how are things 2 years on? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? We're joined by Tenby Powell from the to talk about the initiatives in Ukraine right now. Tenby, lovely to talk to you again. Are you home at the moment, or are you over there?
Good morning, Sean. Yes, no, I'm back. I'm back because we are, as you quite rightly say, the anniversary of the beginning of the third year of the war was the 22nd of February. So it started 22 February 2022. So I think all of it surprised and saddened to be here, but I'm back doing a series of fundraising speeches, and we're going to carry on and give them all the support we possibly can.
Yeah, and look, fair to say, I mean, I can remember, fair to say this has gone on longer than anyone would have wanted and to a certain extent expected?
I think in the first instance, it was absolutely anticipated that the war would not take too long, and to your opening points, that Russia would prevail. Their idea, of course, was to take Kiev, pouring in, hundreds of thousands of soldiers supported by heavy armour from Belarus. And as you quite rightly pointed out, the defence at least, and the counter-offensive that followed was quite extraordinary. And, since then, the counter-offensive of spring 2023 was incredibly effective. And it was effective because the West provided ammunition, support, and other resources to enable them to do it. For reasons that I think elude many, many people, they stopped providing that support. And as a consequence, the Ukrainians are starved of ammunition. And if we look at Avdiivka, we're first forced to pull back. And, it's really quite extraordinary to me that we don't continue the support that would have enabled them.
Okay, so who primarily is pulling away the support? Which blocks, which countries, Tenby, are not as enthusiastic as they once were?
Well, I think at the highest level, the American filibustering, and this is the Republicans, trying to prevent the package that the Biden government has already, approved, is I think stalling Europe. Europe's facing challenges, Sean, and that might test Article 5 of NATO. But as global instability emerges, it seems that a range of bureaucrats are emboldened by Putin's actions. And I think, it's for years now, the Americans have been urging Europe to spend more on its defence. And the reality is now here, and the cost of complacency is huge. But it is great to see that Sweden, Denmark at least, have given Ukraine pretty much all of their artillery defence systems. Canada is going to donate more than 800 Sky Ranger rockets, so there is still support. But it does seem to be that without the Americans coming to the party, Europe seems to be, flagging and stalling on their commitments as well.
Okay, and the truth is, Ukraine cannot prevail without outside aid. They're not going to win this on their own. They are going to get steamrolled.
Yeah, look, I mean, at its most simplistic, they are running out of ammunition, and this is exactly what happened at Avdiivka. They couldn't hold the line. The key weapon systems that they were promised, and which have only dribbled in as opposed to being given in detail, the HIMARS, the high mobility rocket systems. The F-16s should have been there years ago, and they're now asking for Black Hawks for both strike, for fighting ground attack role. And they also need helicopters for medical evacuation, which they don't have. So the losses on both sides are huge. But it's a very strange environment for what is limited conventional warfare. I mean, it's still effectively World War I trench warfare with 21st century technology. But to not have air supremacy is very, very unusual.
Right. Tenby, obviously you are limited in the sort of aid you can provide. Is that still important in this broader context where they literally need bullets for their guns?
Well, no, it's more important because we don't ever transport ammunition, weapons or soldiers. What we do, though, is we are taking hundreds of tonnes and have done over the last 21 months that Kiwi Care has been operating there, hundreds of tonnes of humanitarian and medical aid forward. And I think if there's been a change to our profile, it would have been 80% humanitarian and 20% medical aid. That's flipped. And now it's really a focus, other than, as you rightly said, these water heaters and wood-burning stoves, which we refabricate out of recycled electrical water heaters, as we would call them here in New Zealand. And we've taken, thousands of those forward now, and they've been deemed as life-saving, where people have no ability to heat, no ability to get hot water. These are life-saving for families whose infrastructure have been completely destroyed.
Tenby, without, I guess, a reinvigoration of military support, though, from the outside, is it maybe time that Zelensky and Putin sat down and talked peace?
Well, there's a call for that, of course, but there has been constantly, Sean. The problem, I think, Zelensky's said that he will not give up an inch of Ukraine, and the catch cry is, if Russia stops fighting, there'll be no war. If Ukraine stops fighting, there'll be no Ukraine.